Today we'll be doing a full step-by-step tutorial of the Charting Platform TradingView. There is a bunch of information to cover and a ton of great tools and features to go through, but if you do need to jump ahead to a specific topic, I have added timestamps down below. Now, in order for us to actually access the TradingView charts and see the screen that I'm currently looking at, we will first need to pull up the website tradingview.com. From that TradingView homepage, in order to pull up the charts, we would simply need to come up here to the Products tab, and then click on the charts icon down below. That'll then immediately take you to a page that looks just like this. And what I really like about TradingView is that you don't even need an account with them in order to open this page and access their charts. This basic version is completely free. Now, the only downside with the basic plan is that it is far more limited than their paid plans. So for example, we're only going to be able to pull up a single chart at a time, we're going to be limited to only certain timeframes on those charts, and you'll only be able to view up to 3 indicators at a time. Those are just a few of them. There are actually a lot of other limitations besides just those 3, but in order to see the differences between the free and the paid plans, we will first need to head back over to the TradingView homepage. We'll then need to head back up here to the Products tab, then come down below and open up the Pricing page. This page will then display all of the paid plans down below and their cost, and then down below each are a few of the key benefits of each plan. Now, if you'd like to try any of these paid plans completely free for 30 days, just go ahead and use my link down below. Clicking that link is going to take you directly to the TradingView homepage, where you can then come up here to hit Get Started and then open up yourself an account. You can then pick any of these paid plans, and again, you'll be able to try it completely free for 30 days and then decide if you actually think it's worth the money. I'd really say it completely depends on how you trade and how much money you have if it's going to be worth it, although I can say that without a doubt they have the absolute best charts I've ever seen. Now, at the end of that trial, if you decide you don't think all of that extra stuff is worth it, just go ahead and scroll down here below and stick with a completely free basic plan. Well, once that's done and you've opened up yourself an account and then you've headed over to the charts page, you're going to see here there is a lot to see. The very first thing you'll probably notice is a very large chart right in the center of our screen. And then to either side of that chart is various menus with a bunch of different tools inside of them. Beginning with the menu at the very top of our screen, you'll first see the stock that we currently have pulled up, in this case Apple or AAPL. That also happens to be where you're going to change the stock that we're looking at, so you could always click inside that box and then go ahead and type in a different stock ticker if we wanted to look at, let's just say Google. So we're going to go ahead and type in GOOG and hit enter on the keyboard. To the right of the symbol is also where we can come to change the overall chart time frame. We could also change the style of the chart, and this is also where we would come to add indicators to the chart. Coming down here to the left-hand side menu, this is where we're going to access all of our various drawing tools. Whether that be a trend line, or coming down here we could add an emote, or even if we wanted to come here and add a picture to the chart, this is where we could do it. Coming down below to the bottom menu chart, this is where we can change the time period of the chart, and also where we can come to access tools like the stock screener, or open up the trading panel. Now finally, the very last menu over here on the right hand side, this is where we can access a bunch of other tools. So things like a watch list or create alerts, or even down here at the bottom where we can come to place trades. But don't worry, I know that seems like a lot, but we'll be digging into each of these one step at a time to make sure you really understand what's available and then how to use it. One of the very first things that I want to do before we dive too deep into the settings or how to use some of these various tools on here is to adjust the overall color theme of the platform. So at the moment, you'll notice that we are currently using the light theme, and that's why it's got a white background. But in order to flip it over to a dark mode, we could come up here to my profile icon in the upper left-hand corner. In the menu down below, we could then find the button marked dark mode and flip that over. Now, for me personally, this is a lot easier on the eyes, but of course, this is entirely based on personal preference. And another way to do exactly what we just did is by simply coming over here to the chart itself and right-clicking anywhere. Within that menu down below, we would simply then come down to color theme, and this is also where we could come to flip it over from light mode to dark mode or vice versa. Now, beside the overall theme of the app, we could dive even deeper into the various customizations by accessing the chart settings. To access those chart settings, which would allow us to even further customize the general appearance of the charts, or even some of the tools in here, we could either come up here to the top right-hand corner and click on the gear icon, or just like before, we could come down to the chart itself and right-click anywhere. Then down below in the menu, we would simply come down here and click on the Settings button. The menu that appears is going to allow us to even further customize the overall display. So up here at the moment, we can currently see I've got the Symbol tab selected. So that means over here on the right, we're going to be able to adjust things like the overall color of the candlesticks, or down here below, we could even adjust the time zone of the chart. Now there's clearly a lot of other things besides just those two, but for example, if you wanted to adjust the color of the candles because maybe you are red and green colorblind, we could do that just by coming up here to the color icons. So you can adjust the green color by clicking on that and then picking the new color you wanted to flip it to, or the red candle as well. But you can always adjust this on your own and get it set up the way that you like it. Now coming over here to the status line menu over here on the left-hand side, this menu is going to allow us to adjust the information displayed at the very top of the chart. Now at the moment, the menu is kind of covering it a little bit, so let me move that out of the way for a second. If we were to come up here at the top, this is where you can adjust things like the stock symbol, the open, high, low, and close for the stock right now, or even the information displayed for an indicator if we have any of them added. Now besides that, if we were to come down below and open up the Scales tab, this is where we can come to adjust how the information is going to be displayed on the X and Y axis. So for example, if we were to come over here to the right and say we wanted to visually see both the bid and asking price for the stock right now, we can go ahead and check mark that. Now coming over here to the right and looking at the Y axis, we can see both the current asking price as well as the bid price for this stock right now. So again, this is where we can adjust the information displayed on either the X or Y axis, the Scales menu. Next up, we've got the Appearance tab right below that. And this is the tool that's going to allow us to dive even deeper into the overall appearance settings of our charts. So here we could come over to the right and adjust the chart color even further by using the background color icons. So just as a random example, let's say I wanted my chart to start out white at the top and then get more and more blue on the way down. So I could click on this first icon right here and flip it over to white, then come up here to the second icon and we'll flip that over to a bluish color. So now zooming out, you can see I completely changed the color of the chart as well. Now for me personally, I don't like that color, so I'm going to come back up here and flip it over to this grayish color. Actually, I'll flip them back over to a more navy blue color. And besides the overall chart color, we could also get rid of those grid lines in the background. So if I came down here to the vertical grid lines and I were to say I want those fully transparent, I could do that to the vertical as well as the horizontal. And now if I were to take a look at my chart, you can see those lines in the background are completely gone. Now besides that, if we were to come up here and open up the Trading tab next, this is where we can come to adjust the overall settings for the trade panel, which we're going to talk about here a little bit later. Then finally, the very last one here, the Events tab, is where we can come to adjust what events we want displayed at the very bottom of the chart. So do we want to see a little icon on the bottom of the chart when the company's about to announce earnings or a dividend? And this is where we can also choose to add or remove whatever big event that you like to see. So do you want to see a little icon at the bottom of the chart when a company is about to announce earnings or a dividend? That's what this page is for. But I think you get the general idea, and once the settings are set up the way that we like it, we can then come over here and hit OK to lock them in. Once you get all your settings set up the way you like it, you've got the appearance set up the way you like it, one of the most basic things that you'll be doing probably most often within your chart is switching between different time periods or adjusting what these candlesticks represent. At the very bottom left-hand corner of the chart, you'll first be able to adjust how far back this chart is looking. So if we were to come down here below and select 1Y, which stands for 1 year, we'll then be looking at a chart showing an entire year's worth of price history for this particular stock. If we instead came over here and clicked on 5Y, we're now seeing 5 years of price history. Now besides just adjusting how far back we're looking, you might also need to adjust the time frame of each candlestick. So how much time does each candlestick represent? We can see that by coming up here to the upper left-hand corner of the chart. And right here you can see where it currently says 1 week or just a W. Now if we were to click on that, we can then see a little menu appear down below with a bunch of different time frames that we could use. Now unfortunately, unless you have the premium plan for TradingView, you're not going to be able to use the seconds menu. But if we instead came down here below and said we wanted to look at a 1-minute chart, we're going to go ahead and click on 1 minute here. Now looking down below at the chart itself, we can now see that each one of these green and red candles now represents 1 minute of trading. You could also use the little scroll wheel on your mouse if you wanted to get a closer look at this particular chart. So to scroll in, or you could use the scroll wheel to scroll out or zoom out of the chart as well. Now, in order to go further back in time or forward in time, you could also just click and drag the chart left or right to go forward or back in time, and then again the scroll wheel to zoom in or zoom out. Now, you may also notice that at the very bottom of the chart, it's also telling you exactly the time period that we currently have our mouse at. So in this case, we currently have our mouse on Thursday, 20 October 2022 at 9:56 in the morning. If you were to look at the top toolbar, it's also going to tell us the open, high, low, and close for that 1 minute period. So that's great. We now know how to adjust the time frame, the candlesticks, and to zoom in and zoom out. But let's say you wanted to look at multiple different charts all at the exact same time. And that can be easily done by coming up here to the top toolbar and clicking on this little square icon. The menu that then appears down below is going to allow us to select both how many charts we want to see and how we want them to be displayed. So for example, if I wanted to add 2 charts side by side, I could come down here below where it says the number 2, and it clearly shows that I'm going to have 2 charts right next to each other. So I'm going to come here and click on that. We can then see a brand new chart immediately opens up just to the right of the first one. And right down the center, we also have a center column dividing the two. And I could actually click on that and drag it right or drag it left if I wanted to adjust the size of those charts. Now, I also have the ability to control these charts independently. So for example, if I wanted the chart on the left to be a 1 minute chart, but the one on the right to be a daily chart, we'll first begin by clicking on the chart that we want to adjust. So in this case, we'll begin with the left-hand chart by clicking on it. I can then come up here to the very top and just double check that I did in fact want this one to be a 1 minute chart. Then coming over here to the right-hand chart, I'll go ahead and click on that one. And for this one, I want to flip it over to a daily chart. So I'm going to come down here and select 1 day. I can also adjust the stock ticker in each chart by using the watch list over here on the right-hand side and selecting the stock that I wanted to take a closer look at. So in this case, because I've got the right-hand chart selected, if I were to come down here below and click on Tesla, you'll see the chart on the right flips over to Tesla. If I wanted that left-hand chart to instead be, let's say, AMD, I'm going to come over here to the far left and click on that one, then come over here and flip it over to AMD. Now, the reason I was able to do that, the reason I was able to put different stock tickers in each chart and I was able to put different time frames in each chart is because at the moment, I don't have these charts synced. So that simply means that they are both working completely independently of one another. What I do to one doesn't change the other. In order for us to sync these charts together, we'll first need to head back up to the charts icon at the very top of the screen, the same icon as before. In the menu down below, and if we were to look at the very bottom, you can actually see a few different syncing options. The very first one here, syncing the symbol, will mean that the same stock is going to be in each chart. So if I change one to AMD, they will both change to match. Now, if we were to instead come over here and sync the time interval, that's going to mean that both charts have the exact same time interval. So for example, if I made the chart on the left a 1 day chart, the one on the right is going to automatically change to a 1 day chart as well. You can also see here we have the ability to sync the crosshairs. So that means if we were to put our mouse on the chart, the crosshairs will appear on both. And we also have the ability to sync the overall time range of the chart as well. Now, I'd say the two that you'll probably use most often are either going to be the symbol or the interval, which if I leave those selected, if I came back up here and selected both of those, and now if I were to come back over here to the chart itself and I clicked on a brand new symbol, like let's say Tesla, you'll notice that both of the charts on the left now change to Tesla, because now these symbols are linked. If I were to come down here below and change the time interval for both, like let's say we came down and changed it to a 3-month chart, you can now see that they both change to match as well. But I think you all get the general idea. And for now, I'm going to come back up here to the top and flip it back over to a single chart. Next up, let's discuss how to change the overall chart style. So for those of you who are not a fan of using the candlestick chart, you could adjust the style by coming back up here to the top menu on the left-hand side here and finding this little candlestick icon. The menu that then appears below is going to allow you to flip it over to things like a bar chart, a hollow candles chart, Heikinashi, Kagi. I mean, you've got a bunch of different options to choose from. And for me personally, I prefer candles, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it as that. But that's where you can adjust the overall chart style. Now, besides that, finishing up the top toolbar here, we can also add indicators by clicking on the indicators button right up here at the top. Within that little menu that appears down below, we can then search for the indicators that we wanted to add. So things like SMA lines, RSI, MACD, or any other indicator that you'd like to use. So to find it, we'll simply come down below to the search box, and for this example, let's go ahead and add the simple moving average line. So typing in simple moving average here. We can now see it down below as the very first one in the list, and all we have to do to add it is come down here and click on it. If we were to zoom out, you'll see that it immediately got added to the chart itself. So if we were to come over here and exit out of this pop-up window, we can see a bunch of various lines right here on our chart. Now, this is not exactly what I wanted to see. So in order for us to edit this, to get rid of a few of these lines here and then make adjustments to the time frame and maybe even the appearance of how they look, let's come up here to the little SMA indicator icon in the upper left, and then all we have to do is come to the far right and click on the little settings menu. Within this pop-up, you'll see there is a lot to look at. And looking over here, we can see a bunch of different SMA lines. And if I were to scroll through here, we can see we've got SMA line 1, 2, and scrolling down, it looks like we've got 10 different SMA lines on our chart right now. Now, for me personally, I only wanted to see 2 SMA lines, so I'm going to go ahead and uncheck all of them, except for the first 2. Just go ahead and uncheck all of these guys here. And now I'm left with only 2. You may have also noticed that we can click on these little color boxes right here to actually adjust the color of those lines. The very first of those color boxes is going to be the color that's going to display if the stock price is above the SMA line, and then the second color box is going to be if the stock price is below the SMA line. So in my case, I'm going to make the primary color for SMA line 1 more of a tealish color, and I'm going to make the color for the SMA 2 line more of a goldish color. Now, when the stock price is below those SMA lines, I want both of them to display as a red line. So I'm going to adjust both of them over to red. Now that I've got the appearance all set up, I can then come up here to the top and adjust the inputs. So down here at the moment, we can see the SMA line 1 is going to be a 20-period average, and SMA 2 is going to be a 50-period average. So let's go ahead and adjust that slightly. I'm going to make SMA 1 a 50-period moving average, and I'm going to make SMA 2 a 200-period average. To then save that and see it on our chart, let's come down here below and hit the OK button. And now coming up here to the chart, and if we were to zoom in just to take a closer look, we can now see the 50-period and the 200-period simple moving average. You can also see that anytime the stock price is above the 50-period SMA or the 200-period SMA, it shows up as that teal or gold color. But then if the stock price falls below those lines, we can see it actually flips over to a red color. I also want to mention that these indicators can also be moved around a bit. They don't necessarily have to overlay the chart itself. And in order to move them, we would simply right-click on one of these SMA lines, and then down below we could come to where it says Move To, and we could move it either above the chart or below the chart. In this case, just as an example, we'll come down here below and flip it to the new pane below, and now you'll see that those moving averages display below the chart itself. If later down the line we wanted to delete this indicator, we would simply come to where the indicator description is in the upper left-hand corner and simply hit the little X button on the far right-hand side. Probably one of the most popular indicators to add is going to be the volume bars. So if we wanted to add those, we could come up here to the indicators menu, then come down below, and you can see I've already got it favorited. But if I didn't, I could just come up here and type in volume, then go ahead and click on it in the list below. Now that I'm happy with that, we'll just come up here to the upper right and exit out of this. And now remember, if I didn't want these volume bars to overlay the chart, I could just come down here and right-click on them, then select Move to a new pane below, and now my volume bars are below the chart itself. Other than that top toolbar, we can also access all of our drawing tools within the left-hand sidebar over here on the left-hand side. That could be anything from a simple trend line to a Fibonacci or even an emoticon. So each of these buttons on the left can then be expanded to display all of the drawing tools inside each one. So right at the top here, you can see I currently have a very simple trend line selected. But if I were to come over here and click on this little arrow to expand the menu, you can see a bunch of other lines down here below as well. Besides just the very simple trend line, the only other really popular one that I see you guys using is going to be the horizontal line, which is essentially just a support or resistance line, or maybe the parallel channel, so the channel line. For right now, we'll just come up here and select the trend line. And then in order to create the line itself, we would simply need to click once to create our first anchor point, and then click a second time where we want the line to end. So right here, we'll come and click once to begin the line, and a second time to end the line. We could also come over here and click and hold down on the line itself and drag and drop it wherever we wanted to move it to. We could also come over here to either of the anchor points and click and hold down and drag those if we wanted to move them as well, or drag them left or right to extend or shorten the line. And another cool thing is down at the very bottom of the chart itself, it actually shows the time period that this trend line covers. So at the moment, you can see the trend line begins Friday, 9 September of 2022 at 8:30, and it looks like it's going to end on Tuesday, 4 October at 8:30 as well. Besides that, we could also look up here in the upper right-hand corner and adjust the overall appearance of the line as well. So coming over here, we could adjust the color of the line if we wanted to. We could adjust the thickness of the line, and we could even adjust if we wanted it to be a solid line or a dash line. Then later, to get rid of it, we would simply come over here to the trash can icon and click on that to remove it. I don't want to spend too much time on the drawing tools over here because they're pretty simple to use, and you'll notice there are quite a few of them. But just as a quick example, if we were to open up this little icons menu, you can see a bunch of icons here. And if, for example, we wanted to add, let's just say, an arrow pointing at a certain place, we could click on that and then just click where we wanted the arrow to be pointed. Then again, to get rid of it, we would simply come up here and click on the trash can icon. I'd really just recommend you come over here and play with it a little bit just to get some experience with it, and with a little bit of time, you'll feel completely comfortable using those drawing tools. So besides that top panel and the drawing tools menu, coming over here to the right-hand side panel, we can also go over all of these tools as well. Starting at the top here, the very first icon that we currently have selected is the watchlist tab. You saw a second ago, we used this before to adjust the actual stock chart. But looking a little bit closer at the watch list itself, you'll first be seeing the default watch list that comes with TradingView. You can see a few different indices in here, SPX, NDX, as well as a few different individual stock tickers and even future symbols. In order for us to make a brand new watch list, we would simply come up here to the very top and click on the tab marked watch list, then come down below in the little drop-down menu and click on the button marked create a new list. I can then come over here to the left and just go ahead and give it a name. In my case, I'm just going to name it My Stocks and then go ahead and hit save over here. In order for us to then add a few different symbols, we'll come up here to the little plus sign in the upper right-hand corner of the watch list, and we'll go ahead and add a few right here. We'll go ahead and add Google, Apple, AMD, and you know what? I'll also add gold futures and ES futures as well. Now that we've got all the stocks we want to add for right now, we'll just come up here and hit the little X button. And now we can also group those symbols in certain groups or subsections if we wanted to, simply by coming up here to one of the symbols that we've added and right-clicking on it. Then we can come down here below and add a section. I'm going to go ahead and do that one more time. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click on gold here and add a section. And now what I want to do is come up here and name those sections. So all I'm doing is double-clicking on it. And for this one, we'll name stocks. And then down here below, we'll go ahead and double click on this one and name this one futures. Now this doesn't have to stay static. I could always drag and drop these symbols into different sections if I wanted to. But that's a really great way to organize your watch list a little bit better. Going through a few of those other tools on the right-hand side panel, if we were to come back over here and click on the next one down, this is going to be the Alerts tab. Once that menu opens up, here on the left, we could either create a brand new alert by hitting this little alerts icon at the top, or down below, we can see all of our active or even our triggered alerts. So here at the top, you can see I created both a very simple pricing alert saying alert me if Google ever crosses above or below $101 a share. And right above that, you can also see I created a more advanced study alert based on the RSI indicator. But to learn how to do that, you can check out my video specifically on how to create TradingView alerts. And besides the Alerts tab, if we came back over here to the right, we can also open up the News tab. This one kind of speaks for itself. It is simply showing us recent news articles about a particular company. In this case, we currently have Tesla pulled up. And down here below, if we were to click on one of these, it'll open up the full article. Now, I don't want to read this for now, so we'll just come back up here and exit out of that. And then down below, besides the News tab, we can also open up the Data window. This window is going to display very simple pricing information about this particular stock today or things like the volume today. The one right below that, the Hotlist tab, this is essentially just a set of watch lists showing the most active stocks or the biggest winners or losers today. So up here at the top, we can see we've got a volume gainers watch list, we've got a percent change watch list, and we've got a losers watch list by percent change. Below that, we can also see here we've got a little calendar icon showing us all the upcoming events, whether they be economic events or things like earning announcements or dividends. That's what the calendar is for. And honestly, we're going to skip over the rest of the tools over here in the side panel because I doubt you're going to use many of them for right now. And instead, we're going to come down below and find the order panel. So this little panel over here on the right-hand side is one way that you're going to be able to place trades within TradingView, whether it be paper trading or linking to a real broker and placing real-life trades. That is what the order panel is going to be for. Or we could also come down below and open up the DOM, or the depth of market, and this tool will also allow us to place trades as well. Now at the moment, we don't actually have the ability to place trades in this account. We don't have it linked to anything. We don't have it linked to paper. We don't have it linked to a real account. So in order to do that, in order to link TradingView to a real life broker or to a paper money account, we will need to come down to the very bottom panel, the very bottom of our chart, and find Trading Panel. This will then open up a panel with all of the different brokers that we can connect to. Include paper trading by TradingView right here. But scrolling down, you'll even see things like Interactive Brokers or Gemini, Ally Invest. You've got a bunch of different options. Now for right now, just to keep things simple, we're going to scroll back up to the top and I'm going to link it to a paper trading account. So I'm just going to come here and hit connect. I'm then going to come up here to the little disclosure window and hit connect one more time. And now looking down below, my little trading panel is displaying the fact that I have linked this to a paper trading account. And down here below, I can see all of my open positions, as well as my open orders, and my available buying power over here on the right. Now, before we dig too deep into that, let's first go over how we're going to place a brand new trade within here. Now, like I said before, we are generally going to be placing trades using the side panel on the right, and either using the order panel or the DOM. In our case, we are going to first begin by opening up the order panel, which will then open up a little menu over here on the left-hand side. And this is where we can then specify exactly what we want to do. So how many shares do we want to buy? What order type do we want to use? And then how long do we want that order good for? If we were to first begin at the top and then work our way down, right up here at the top, you can see I am currently about to place a trade on Tesla. Right below that, I could then specify if I intend to short the stock or buy additional shares. And in this case, we'll first begin by buying shares of Tesla. Right below that, we can then specify the type of order we intend to use. And you can see here we've got the ability to place a market order, meaning we want to buy the stock immediately and we'll take whatever the current price is. To the right of that, we have a limit order, meaning we want to specify a price. We have a very specific price in mind and we don't want to buy the stock unless we can get it for that price. Now, finally, to the right of that, we also have the ability to place a stop order. And a stop order is generally going to be used to get us out of the position before we lose too much money. Hence why you'll hear it referred to as a stop loss order so often. Now in my case today, I'm going to be using a limit order for now. So we'll go ahead and leave limit order selected. Then down below that, I can specify exactly what price I want to buy it at. And in this case, with Tesla currently trading at 205.41, that's why that price is in there. I could instead choose to highlight that and instead say I only want to buy Tesla if it drops down to 200 even. Once I've got the price I want to pay entered, I could then come down here below and specify the number of shares that I want to buy. And in this case, I'm going to say I want to buy 5 shares of Tesla. Below that, you also have the ability to turn this order into a bracket order, meaning not only do I want to buy the shares of Tesla, but if I buy it, I want to automatically put out a take profit order or a stop loss order as well. Now, I talk about that far more in depth in a later video, but it's pretty simple. You would simply check mark what you want to do. So in this case, if I also want a take profit and stop loss order to go out behind it, I'm just going to check mark those. Then down below here, I can specify the exact price. So if I were to ever actually buy shares of Tesla for 200, let's say I then wanted to try and sell those same exact shares for 210 bucks. Right below that, it tells me that if I were to actually sell my 5 shares at 210, I'd be making a $50 profit overall. I could also come over here to the right and say, man, but if Tesla goes down, I don't want to lose more than, let's say $199. And in that case, I'm saying if I ever lose $5 on this trade, get me out. Now finally, the only other thing I have to do is come down here below where it currently says time in force and specify how long I want this order good for. So at the moment, I'm saying I want these orders good for a week, but if I were to click on that, I could adjust it to a day, to a month, or good till a specific date. So in this case, we'll come up here and make these good for the month. And now that we're done with that, the only other thing I have to do is come up here to this big blue button and click on buy 5 shares of Tesla. We can then see that the order has been placed. And if I were to look over here in my trading panel, over here on the left, and click on the orders tab, right down here below are my active orders. And it might be a little bit hard to see, so let's make this menu a little bit bigger. And now down here below, we can see my open order to buy 5 shares at 200, and then the take profit and stop loss order that will go out automatically if I ever buy those shares. Later down the line, if I wanted to edit that working order or cancel it in some way, I could simply do so by right-clicking on it, then coming to the menu on the right and either selecting Modify Order to edit it, or coming down here and hitting Cancel Order to outright cancel it. Let's just say we wanted to bump up the price a little bit, so we could come up here to Modify Order. I'll then need to come back over here to the order panel on the right and then adjust what I wanted to adjust. In this case, let's say we wanted to boost up the price a little bit. In this case, we're going to bump it up to 205 even. And now that I'm happy with that, we'll then come back down below and hit Modify Order. And there we go. We can now see that the order has been modified. We can see it down here below in the little order panel. And if we come over here to the chart, and if we were to go to the current time frame, we can see those working orders right here on the chart. So right up here at the top is my open order to actually buy those shares. And then right above that is my order to sell those 5 shares at a $25 profit. Or right down below that is the stop order, which is a little bit hard to see, but it's going to get me out if I ever lose 30 bucks. But before you get too crazy with trading in here, I would really recommend you do so in paper money to really get the hang of it before you put any real money on the line. One of the last things I want to mention is that TradingView also has its own set of hotkeys or shortcuts to quickly access any of those tools that we talked about today. In order for us to find out what each key does and how we can use them, we'll first need to come up here to the profile icon in the upper left, then come down below and open up the keyboard shortcuts menu. Within this menu, we could then open up one of these categories, like let's say we wanted to open up the indicators or drawings menu, and now down below we can see what each key does. So for example, if we were to come down below, we can see the measuring tool, and we didn't talk about this earlier, but this is how you can measure the distance between 2 points. We can see here what we have to do in order to quickly access this tool is simply hold Shift and then click on our chart. We could also see if we scroll down a little bit, we could also add a trend line very easily by holding down Alt and hitting T. So to see that in action, if we were to come up here and exit out of this, if we were to first use the measuring tool, if I remember correctly, that was using Shift, so holding down Shift on the keyboard and then clicking on the chart, you can see I am now automatically creating the measuring tool. So now right here, this is the measuring tool right on our chart, and if I click again, it has been laid out. In the case of a trend line, if I remember back, that was going to be Alt and then the letter T on the keyboard. Now if I were to click and click again, I now have that trend line on the chart as well. Now finally, the very last thing that I'll mention is that TradingView can also be downloaded as an application on your computer. So to do that, we would simply come up here to the menu icon in the upper left-hand corner, or my profile icon, then come down below in the menu and click Get Desktop App. You can then come here and download it for a Windows computer, a Mac, or for Linux. Now the app itself is essentially the exact same as the online version, but could be accessed using a desktop icon in your computer rather than having to go to a website. But I know that was a lot to cover, but I really do hope you all feel a lot more comfortable using and customizing the TradingView platform after today. If you do decide to open an account for yourself after this, consider using my link in the description and get yourself that 30-day free trial. If you do still have questions, please let me know below and I'll do my absolute best to help. And in the meantime, check out this video next and I'll see you all on the next video.